English.
And one. And just a reminder for our interpreters, hang tight, and we will do the introduction soon, so you don't have to start just yet, except for our ASL interpreter. Thank you, Jenna.
All right.
Recording in progress.
All right, everyone, let's call the school committee meeting to order and welcome you all back, I think. Today is Monday, September 12th, 2022. The time is 6:05 p.m. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. here in the council chamber. As always, we will first pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for our veterans. The clerk will ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to meet this evening. And then we'll get into the agenda, which consists of the approval of minutes from last June, followed by public comment. We'll then hear from our superintendent. Then we have one subcommittee report, which is on the superintendent's evaluation. We'll hear from Mr. McCarthy. Then we anticipate there will be a motion to adopt. We'll then have a moment of personal privilege, which all of you can address the public with anything going on in your respective wards or in the city in general. We will then entertain a motion to go into executive session. Pending the outcome of that, we will talk about 7 items. One is the approval of the executive session minutes from May 2nd. Number 2 will be on Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A1, to discuss an open meeting law complaint received on September 6th, filed by Amy Friedman against the members of the school committee regarding the June 21st, 2022 and July 27th, 2022 Negotiations Subcommittee that occurred without proper notification of posting. Number 3, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with units A, B, and C, because an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position. Number 4, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with SEIU, Local 888, clerical, custodial, and cafeteria units, because again, an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee. Number 5, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. Supervisor of attendance, because an open meeting, again, will have a detrimental effect on our bargaining position. Number 6, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements for the review of school committee executive session minutes from January 10th, 2022 to the present. And then finally, non-union salary review for Welcome Center manager and executive assistant to the superintendent. We will then come back out, and depending on the outcome of executive session, we may or may not vote on items that we took action on in executive session. And then we will entertain a motion to adjourn. And again, we will be back together on Monday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. So if there aren't any questions from the members, I would ask everyone to please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. Yes. Let me turn you on. Everybody, if you could just hold a second, I'm going to go to Mr. Drummy. Mr. Drummy.
I'd like to extend a moment of silence. Our former Vice Chair, Lenny Iovino's sister, passed away. So I'd like to have an extended moment for her if we could. She was also a teacher at the high school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drum. Thank you. Now have our clerk call the roll.
Mayor Christensen,
Here.
Mr. Drummy. Here. Mr. McCarthy. Here. Ms. Pettifora. Here. Ms. Macklin. Here. Mr. Weldy.
Here.
Mr. Gray. Here. Mr. Bernard. Here. Ms. Rose Ziber. Here. Superintendent Noriega Murphy. Here.
So we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to meet this evening. Let's take a look at item number 1, regular session minutes of June 6, 2022. Before we do that, let me defer to Mr. Weldy, who will introduce our translators for this evening.
Wonderful. All right, Danielle, I'm going to turn it over to you for your team to do introductions.
Thank you, Adam. Good evening, everyone. This is Danielle here with the team of interpreters from Rosetta Languages. We are going to be providing interpretation in 8 different languages, and a big thank you to the ASL interpreters who are already started interpreting, Jenna and James. We are going to start introducing how to access the language channels in each of the different languages. I will start in Arabic. مساء الخير، السلام عليكم. عندنا ترجمة باللغة العربية. لو سمحتم اضغط على رمز الكرة الأرضية الذي سيظهر على أسفل الشاشة بعد قليل واختار اللغة العربية. إذا كنت على هاتف محمول عليك الضغط على 3 نقط ثم اختيار اللغة العربية ثم الضغط على كلمة تم. إذا كان لديكم أي صعوبة اكتب في صندوق الدردشة وسنساعدكم. شكرا جزيلا. And I will pass it to Emily for Spanish.
Buenas noches a todo el mundo. Mi nombre es Emily y soy intérprete de español de esta noche. En un momentico vamos a encender la función de interpretación. Cuando lo hacemos, simplemente ubícase al fondo de su ventana de Zoom y ahí vas a encontrar el icono del globo. Haciendo clic en el icono, escoge Spanish. Si se está conectando con móvil, empuje los 3 puntitos, escoge Interpretation, pues Spanish, pues Done. Si tiene cualquier problema, por favor, comunícase con nosotros tras el chat. Muchas gracias. And now I'm going to pass it over to Nikita for Haitian Creole.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nikita Lamo. I'm the Haitian Creole interpreter for Rosetta Languages tonight. Bonsoir tout le monde. Nom c'est Nikita Lamo. Ma traduit à soya pour Rosetta Languages dans une 8 langues que la traduit. C'est interprète créole là. Si vous l'ordinateur, vous cliquez sur un globe qui est sur votre droite en bas écran et puis vous choisissez interprétation, vous cliquez sur interprétation, après ça vous choisissez Haitian Creole. Si vous connectez sur Zoom dans le téléphone mobile, tant pis vous cliquez sur 3 petits points qui dans coin, vous pouvez un côté qui baqué mort, vous peser language interpretation, après ça vous choisissez Haitian Creole. Après ça, on va cliquer Done, qui veut dire qu'on finit. Si vous avez n'importe question, n'importe problème, on va écrire dans le chat là. Après ça, on répond. OK? Merci. I'm going to pass it to Len in Vietnamese.
Xin chào, tôi tên là Lan Tô và tôi sẽ phiên dịch sang tiếng Việt. Chúng tôi sẽ sớm kích hoạt các kênh ngôn ngữ. Xin vui lòng chọn biểu tượng quả địa cầu khi quý vị thấy xuất hiện ở bên dưới màn hình và chọn Vietnamese nghĩa là tiếng Việt. Nếu quý vị dùng điện thoại di động, xin bấm vào biểu tượng 3 dấu chấm, sau đó chọn Language Interpretation nghĩa là phiên dịch ngôn ngữ, sau đó Vietnamese nghĩa là tiếng Việt. Như vậy là xong ạ. Xin cảm ơn. Thank you. Now over to Terry, Mandarin Interpreter.
Thank you, Lan. Hi everyone, my name is Terry. I'll be your Mandarin interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我是 Terry， 我是你们的国语翻译。待会你在屏幕下方会看到一个地球仪的图标，你点选地球仪的图标，然后再选择 Mandarin， 你就可以听到国语的频道了。如果你是用手机或者平板电脑上来的话呢，您可以选择屏幕下方的3个点，然后再选择语言的选项，也可以进入到国语的频道。好，谢谢大家。I'll pass it to Cantonese, Anna, please.
谢谢 Terry. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna. I'll be a Cantonese interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我 Anna， 我哋今天晚上嘅廣東話翻譯員，陣間你見到個地球嘅時候，撳落去揀 Cantonese 廣東話，咁就有廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。用手機嘅話咧，麻煩撳下3個點，再揀更多，亦都有啲廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。好嘅，陣間見。Back to you, Danielle. Thank you.
And I will pass it to Brendan, who we skipped for Portuguese.
Boa noite, gente. Eu vou estar interpretando para português, então, se precisar de interpretar em português, assim que a gente ligar a função de interpretação, se tiver no computador, vai clicar no globinho, escolher português. Se tiver no celular, vai clicar nos 3 pontinhos, depois escolher interpretação e depois escolher português. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, team. And to all the English speakers in the audience, I don't want to leave you guys out. If we ever have any questions in other languages, you can hear the interpretation in English in real time just by going to the bottom of your screen, clicking on the globe, and choosing English. So I invite you all to do that as well. With that, interpreters, make sure your mics are on, unmute yourself, and Adam, you can go ahead and activate the channels.
All right, thank you, Rosetta. We are going to activate the channels now. Should be good.
Okay, Danielle, shukran, masalama. All right, so our first order of business, and again, I want to encourage everyone when you are speaking to speak slowly so our translators can translate the docket. So the first order of business is the approval of minutes from June 6th, 2022, which you have all had a chance to look at. Motion by Ms. Spatafora, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions on the minutes? Chair has none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Item number 2 is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record, and that you keep your remarks to just a couple of minutes. And let me turn it over to Mr. Weldai, who will help us coordinate that with our online portion of the meeting as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for anyone in person that would like to speak, please just come up to the podium. For anyone online, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or dial *9 if you are on the telephone. It does not look like we have any telephone participants. So any Zoom folks, use the raise hand feature, and we'll start with in person.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Amy Friedman. I live at 8 Marvin Street. There are 3 things I'd like to bring to your attention. The first is on the NRT contract. Information that I have indicates that we are short on drivers and that kids with transportation on their IEPs and 504s are getting to school late, that some drivers are actually doing multiple runs. This is another example of a long list of NRT's failures, so I hope that you'll consider moving expeditiously this year to look at that contract and find other providers. The superintendent's evaluation is on the agenda. There have been questions surrounding her academic credentials, at various times holding herself as having a doctorate and other times not using that moniker. Multiple stories have been swirling on social media and even in the Boston Globe regarding this issue. This should be a simple enough issue to put to bed. The public has asked for proof of her doctorate, if she has one, and we should be able to receive that and see that. Finally, last spring there was a firing or a non-renewal of over 100 teachers and staff by the superintendent, and now we have no teacher's contract. The Negotiations Subcommittee was supposed to hold a number of meetings over the summer regarding this to negotiate with the teachers and get a contract. I found that at least 2 of those meetings were not publicly noticed, and at least one of those meetings a quorum was not present. Without a teacher's contract, we will have fewer interested candidates and be able to recruit fewer candidates to fill our shortages that we have from the firings last spring. None of these things are matters that we, the parents, should find out about by trading stories in the schoolyard with other parents, scouring social media, or reading the Boston Globe. This information, public notices and answers should be provided by this body and the administration. Rather than do that, members of this committee have hidden information and even attacked parents who ask these questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
We've got one on Zoom, Stacy Gilchrist. Let's see.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Stacy Gilchrist. I live at 30 Parkside Place in Malden, and I am calling as a parent, and I'm calling to request that the school committee give out a special communication to parents, updating us on the teacher shortage and the support staff shortage. I know that this is national news. You can read articles in everything from local papers to national papers about how schools are having trouble hiring staff. And I think parents in Malden really just want to have a sense of how that's impacting us and to get an up-to-date picture of how many open positions we have. I know that I have gone to the employment page on the Malden Public Schools website, but I've also been told in the past that that's not necessarily the most up-to-date information. But still, I'm seeing a lot of positions open for teachers and paraprofessionals. And as a parent, something I'd like to know is how are, who's filling in those roles right now? How are these shortages getting covered every day while our children are there? And to that end, you know, when you read these articles, the reasons that are given for why we're having this shortage, it's pretty much the same news everywhere, right? Teachers are exhausted from COVID. There's a lot of public vilification of teachers in some areas of the country right now, and low pay. And I wanted to talk specifically about paras. Paras are, I have 2 kids in special education, so I have more experience with paras than maybe some other parents. And I know how absolutely essential they are, not just in special education, but throughout the school. And when I find online the Unit C pay scales, and I see that according to this, you know, starting salaries are 20 in the 20,000 to 21, 22,000. I mean, every parent that I share that with is really just horrified. I've been told by some city representatives that this is comparable, but I'm just wondering in this employment atmosphere they're in right now, if comparable is good enough to attract and retain paras or any staff. And that brings me to my last question is, you know, I think parents would love an update on what is Malden doing now to hire and retain teachers and support staff that it wasn't doing before COVID. You know, everyone says in COVID, it's like a whole new world. We have all these open positions. What do we have to do? What do we have to do? What is Malden's plan? So again, a direct communication with parents about what's the status and what's the new plan for this new world that we're living in to fill those. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stacy. And seeing no other participants.
Okay, very good. We're going to close public comment and go to our superintendent. And Superintendent, based on that last question, why don't we go straight to where we are staffing-wise, and then you can come back to the beginning of your presentation. So, Mr. Weldi, if you could get to page, what page is that on? Page 20. Okay, everyone, so again, we're going to hear from our superintendent. She's going to jump around based on that last question in public comment to address where we are position-wise and then go back to the beginning of the presentation.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for asking the question. So what we have in here is per school and per subject and per position, the vacancies that we have. There are different colors. The one highlighted when we look at BB and the other schools is that they are in the process of being hired. Actually, the ones at BB started today, the two first positions. You are absolutely right about the number of paraprofessionals that we have vacant positions. So one of the things that we are doing is we are contracting with Precision HR. We did it last year. That means that they have access to more paraprofessionals around the state. So therefore, we are already in conversations with them to make sure that we are going to put the support systems in every single classroom, especially for the paraprofessional positions. Where HR is just a contractor services. One of the things that we are going to do is keep the positions posted. We have been working with colleges, hiring agencies, trying to go to local agencies too to see how they can support us advertise our positions. And also to parents, we had a group of parents that advertised the positions in August, so I thank them very much for all the support. So the plan is to have Precision HR and at the same time keep the positions posted, because when we find the candidates, we will be able to hire them for the year. When we look, so in here you can see that we have BB, we have the early center, and at this moment the two positions at the early center had been already filled. We have Forestdale, we have Fairway. So some of the positions in here, this was done on Friday, so some of them have been already filled. But we still have openings. Yes, we wish and we hope to hire right away. It's nothing to be happy about, but in a way we are in a better position than last year, but it's not good enough because we want to make sure our schools are going to be fully staffed, and that is the goal. So if you know anybody that is looking for a job, please let them know that we have openings. They are posted in our website and also in different agencies. We go to Linden. So with Linden, we have a teacher at the grade 2 is a long-term position. That person will come back soon, but once again, we have, you can see in here, every single school with a specific position that is open. We see Sillingwood, and we also see the district. This is as of on Friday, so therefore you are going to see, and I will be glad to put this actually in the webpage so you can see in a timely manner how the positions are being filled. The next slide is the overall open positions. And once again, we are working with agencies trying to make sure that they post our positions, and we have some people in the pipeline just waiting to get all the documentation so we can also start hiring them. So I will put this in the webpage, and we are going to just keep track of this so you can go there and see how the positions are being filled. We also, the next one is the newly hired staff. So we had 118 new teachers, and 17 of them are actually supported by DESE with a waiver. We are going to be working closely with them to make sure that they're going to go to M.G.L and they're going to have all their paperwork ready so we can hire them as permanent teachers. So we are working very closely with them. At the same time, we had 2 days orientation with newly hired staff, and we had 2 of our amazing directors who are going to be working with them for 100 hours during the year for mentorship programs. We want to make sure that it's not just the academic that we are going to focus on, but also the social, emotional, because being a new teacher is very hard. So therefore, I had to say that we had 2 amazing directors here who are going to be supporting the teachers and also the principals. So that is what we have on open positions. And once again, not tonight, but tomorrow you're going to see this posted on our website, and we are going to see how we can keep the tracker so you can see when we actually are hiring people.
Let's stop you there. Any questions of the superintendent on where we are staffing-wise? And if not, we can come back after. I just figured while it was up, we could take some of those questions now. Let's go to Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as directed to the superintendent. So we are on track right now to have most of these positions covered and filled. That's my understanding from the information that you provided so far, correct?
Yeah, most of them. One
Okay.
thing that we had to really be more strategic is about the paraprofessionals, and that's why we are going with position HR, knowing that they can supply the paraprofessionals, because it's hard. There are not many applicants, so therefore, yes, we are being strategic. We hope that before the end of the year, end of the month, we have fully staffed schools.
Have we been getting a lot of applicants coming in?
No, we have not had a lot of applicants coming in, so that's why we are going to have subcontract. That at this moment, we also have deployed coaches and directors to support in the schools. And if we had to go and teach a class, we will be able to go and teach too. So at this moment, we have adults in every single school with students. So there's not a single student that is left alone in the classroom.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Anybody else? Let's go to Ms. Macklin.
Hi, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. I think you kind of spoke to what we're doing in the interim with the classrooms and the students. Who's covering the classrooms as we await hiring?
So in some classes, there are long-term substitutes. And also, we have every single classroom covered. So in every school, it looks different. We have also coaches supporting. Now, we have already principals in here if you want to ask any of them how we are doing it. But there are adults in there, they're highly qualified adults.
Okay. And the DESE licensure waiver process, can you speak to that and what the minimum requirements are? And perhaps we can, there'll be, additional interest out there if they know that could be a pathway.
So one of the things we're doing is the preparation for M.G.L, and we did it last year too, supporting our new educators. With the waiver, we had to prove that we don't have highly qualified candidates. Some of our waivers are for paraprofessionals who decided to become teachers. They will continue taking classes at Cambridge College, and also any preparation that they need, we are going to provide it to them. They need the SEI endorsement, and we have one of our directors working with a team of teachers who need that preparation to do the training in-house without no cost to them. One thing that we want to do is not just train them, but we want to retain them. And that is something that lessons learned from the past, is how do we actually retain all our staff. We also have, and I'm going just to say some of them in grants. We want to see how we can actually put positions in hard money, because we want to retain all our staff. The goal is to keep everybody here, providing them with all the support that they need. We are also trying to open stipends because people need other options to increase the salary for after school and before school, to support our parents who need to drop off the students before school starts and also a little bit later. We also are working with MOST, which is almost fully staffed, but not to the capacity that was before my time. There were almost 300 seats. So we are also looking at how we can increase staffing for MOST, knowing that a lot of families need those services.
Okay, thank you. And so the subcontracting, when you speak about that, are those the substitutes?
The contract. So they are paraprofessionals that we take in. If they have X number of hours with us, we can contract them after a certain number of hours. But the goal is that we will continue looking for permanent paraprofessionals. Relying on contractor services is not the best when it comes to staff, but it's a solution that we used last year too, and the system has used previously. And we hire some of agency paraprofessionals. So the goal is to keep the positions posted. So you will see the positions posted. There will be somebody in the classroom, because we want to make sure that some people will apply and we hire them. The goal is to have our staff to be here for next year and to retire from here. That would be the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Macklin. Anybody else? Mr. Waldy.
Just really quickly, I want to thank Stacy for mentioning that at public comment, and for the superintendent for addressing it. I think you highlighted some of the things, because I know she asked what things are different this post-COVID. And I know there's a lot of work being done with DESE and licensure waiver process, with retention, with making sure that we can promote paraprofessionals to teachers. We emphasized, I think, really strongly during the budget process that we didn't love having to do the contractual services for substitutes and paraprofessionals, and it's really unavoidable, but I appreciate sort of the amount of consistency and updating about where we are with these positions, and I would encourage people, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, don't necessarily look at the listing on the website and count. We have a lot of people just counting. I know in the role that I'm in, I ask often to have a posting that's already filled be left up to see if it can attract more candidates that I could potentially hook for a different role. And so I think there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the postings themselves. I would definitely check in and make sure that you've got the most accurate numbers as they're changing very, very quickly, even from when we got this presentation on Friday till now.
Right, has changed a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate the question and the response.
One thing I can assure is that the homeroom teachers are all in place. So we are looking for teachers like physical education. So we know that our students need that support too, but homeroom teachers are hired. So that is something that we are very proud of. The high school needs two teachers that have what we call homerooms, but homeroom teachers have been hired in all our K-8.
Very good. We're going to go to Ms. Spatafor and then over to Mr. Gray. Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Ms. Macklin talked about, I think, Ms. Macklin and Mr. Weldy on, contractual hirings. I was just curious, more of in the district box where we're looking to hire at like that higher level of having 2 psychologists, sped psychologists, and I'm assuming district level means they're popping amongst different schools and doing like evaluations, IEP evals. Are those things that we can contract out? Because I know we have in the past and have had better luck in filling those. Just specifically for SPED, we need to make sure that we're staying up on our IEPs. We have a certain amount of time to be able to complete these evaluations. So, and then my second question, I'll let you answer both. Is in regards to the nurse that's listed for the district. It says nurse 5 through 8. Is that a floating nurse that goes among schools? Why is it listed under the district and not a specific school?
So all the nurses are actually listed on the district. At this moment, we are looking one at Fairway. We don't have 2 nurses in there. We are supplementing by contracting and also sending people to support. But right now, all the nurses are actually on the district. Going back to the psychologist, we have done it in the past, subcontract the services. So at this moment, nothing's been interrupted because we don't have them full time. So the work is happening. The IEPs is a legal document and there are assessments being done. Pam is here, so the work is not stopped because we don't have them. We are subcontracting the services.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafor.
So I understand that all the nurses fall under district, but I guess it would be helpful if we could move that under Ferryway so we know we're lacking. I mean,
so one of the things that we did,
or maybe an asterisk, something that notifies us that we're, that position may be district, but it's tied to a specific school.
I will do that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Over to Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a very, very minor question for the superintendent, purely for my enlightenment. Under district, what is a technician?
Okay, let's see, paratechnician.
Under district.
Oh, we're looking at both lines. RBT.
RBT, sorry. Yeah, so it's an RBT, it's a special ed position. So if you notice that in all our, most of the positions are open, it's in special ed.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's an RBT, and we should just go back and put in parentheses what it is to clarify to the audience. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. That's your lens, so thank you I appreciate that.
Well, you know what I like.
I got it, yeah. So we will actually, for all the positions that are not very clear, we are going to put it in parentheses. So there's going to be transparency with we post, so people will know what it is and where especially for the district where they belong. So thank you both for the suggestion.
Question from the chair, Mr. Welder. Can you just go back 2 slides? One, go forward, I'm sorry. This particular slide, I just want to clarify for someone looking at this. These asterisk positions are in process. They're being onboarded, right? Is how you explained it to me?
Yes.
And if you had to guess, because I assume our HR department is working in overdrive right now to make this happen. On average, when do you think we'll see these positions come on board?
So some of them are already on board because this was created on Friday. By now, there are some of them that, for example, the ELC doesn't have anything else. There are no vacancies at this moment. Then you can see the other ones at BB, they started already today. So this is a little bit old because it was done on Friday, but you will see it on tomorrow, the new updated one, and the numbers will be less.
Based on the interest in this, do you anticipate doing something similar to what you did with COVID, where you were updating the table pretty frequently?
And that is going to pretty much what it's going to look like. Absolutely, yes. So when you see a movement coming from HR, you will see it in here too.
Got it, okay. All right, seeing no other lights, we'll let you get back to your regular presentation. And then just so the members know, after her presentation, we will be going back to public comment, online only, because we missed someone with a raised hand, right? Okay. So we'll get that after. So Superintendent, take it away.
First of all, I want to say thank you to all the school staff for having an amazing, almost 1 week point something days. We had an amazing beginning, very strong. Everybody was welcoming the students with smiles. So I had to say to my units A, B, and C, SEIU, clerical, cafeteria, custodians, central office staff, parents, caregivers, cross guards, drivers, the school resource officers, and also the Malden police. Thank you so much for making things happen very smoothly. Knock on wood, we hope to have the year like this. The smiles of all our students make this an amazing job. So I just wanted to give kudos to all of you, and parents and caregivers, thank you for your patience with parking and traffic. So I also had to introduce 3 new members of the schools, and we have 3 vacancies in our schools. So I'm going to ask Jordan Just. Well, I don't see him here. He is a new assistant principal at Linden STEM Academy. And then we have Ryan Donner at Fairway. He's not here either. Okay. And then we have Caitlin Quinn, who is a new assistant principal at the high school. So I want to say that we have amazing members of the team, and the ones that left, we wish them the best. We have 2 new directors. As you know, that last year, one of our directors for ELA/history left for another district. So we have Amber Malm, who is here, who is the director of ELA, grades 6 to 12, world languages and the library. And then we have Gerard Tanita, and he is the person for history, K to 12, and also the arts, K to 12. So welcome on board. So moving forward, and this is my apologies. I have to add this because we received this information this weekend, and I have to say, Chris, if you can stand, and also Charlie, if you are in the audience. Thank you. Yes, and Pam. Our Malden High School has been recognized for doing an amazing job during the Special Olympics. There were 164 schools that participated nationwide, and we were one of 12 schools that are going to receive the National Banner recognition. And that is because we were able to successfully match the achievement of standards of excellence in the areas of inclusion, advocacy, and respect. And those are some of the core values that we have in here. So I have to say thank you so much for all your hard work. This is amazing. We will let you know when we are going to receive the banner so we can have a celebration. This is a big accomplishment for our high school, so congratulations to you guys and to the team. All right. So this is the agenda that we're going to follow in the order that I want to present the report. So you can just read it in there. We will just go over the data, the mission, or instructional focus. We are going to also look at the district-wide goals. We are going to look at instructional court, the priorities, the district program of practice, information. Then I'm going to skip the updates on staffing. I'm going to move with the trainings, special education, K-8 literacy adoption progress, AEAP program, and honors program. So, next slide. We were so lucky to go around all the schools and be able to see all the students, staff, and I have to say our seniors at the high school rock. They were welcoming the ninth graders, they had the t-shirts, and they were so amazing directing new students. It was great. Then our kindergarten started too, and that was, you can see one of the pictures there where they're so ready to start, and it was beautiful to see the students just, some of them crying, and, but it was nice to see them going to class with their backpacks so ready to learn. We also have amazing heroes. We had a teacher assisting them with playing a mini guitar, welcoming students and directing traffic too in a beautiful way. We have our cross guards smiling and saying welcome and good morning to everybody. We have our cafeteria workers and of course our custodians who got the buildings to look just outstanding, amazing. Thank you to my principals. You are amazing, you rock. And so I had to give them a special shout out because it wasn't easy last year. It's going to be great this year, but they worked so hard. So thank you for all the work that you did in the summer with your team of assistant superintendents, assistant principals, and also our admin team. So thank you so much for your work. All right, so we are going to move with the enrollment. And in here you will see enrollment per grade level, per school, and our total right now is 6,337 as of Friday. These numbers move because we are getting new students or new families are moving. This is creating a bubble in certain schools, and probably some of you know that we have a waiting list in 2 schools, and we are going to go over that on the grade levels. That is that we have a higher enrollment than projected in certain areas. But right now, once again, this number might change. Hopefully it will go up, but just to let you know, and this is going to be posted soon in our website. I just did a comparative data from last year in September 9, 2021, where we started the school with 5,939 students. Then in June 6, we ended up with 6,471. As of today, well, as of Friday, we have 6,337 students. Once again, we hope to see an increase in our enrollment. Our enrollment right now, we have students in the queue at the Welcome Center. We have 38 kindergartens that the paperwork is being processed. And right now, I'm sure that the numbers are less because they have been working today very hardly and during the weekend, trying to make sure they process all the paperwork. We have 75 incomplete applications, basically because of medical or they're missing some documents. The Welcome Center has been working overtime to make phone calls to families to let them know what they need to bring. I had to say thanks to the CHA Teen Center at the high school that is helping us with the physicals for our families. So they go there and they actually serve our families right away. We do have a waiting list for BB first grade, and the numbers went up also in 4th grade. So the 4th grade is not here, but I will actually update. Oh, I put it in there. And we also have a waiting list in Fairway 1st and 2nd grade. That means that the capacity of the classrooms is already max. The other thing is that we cannot add teachers because there's no physical space to add another teacher to open classrooms. So that's what it means for the waiting list. Then we have our mission and our vision. And we want to make sure that we believe all students can meet challenging expectations through a partnership among home, school, and community. You can read the vision, and the core values that we have is equity, integrity, resilience, and respect. We do have a theory of change that we know that if we can provide early childhood education that is aligned pre-K to 12, connect with families, and build life-strong joy of learning. One of the things that you will hear us say is about pre-K to 12, instead of just K to 12 or K to 8. We are a district that is pre-K to 12, so you will see most of our documents that will read that way. So you can read it in there, but one thing that we really want to emphasize is the professional development for our educators, administrators, to make sure that we are going to have standard-based teaching and learning, and also to provide students with the social-emotional supports. There are 3 instructional focus. One is literacy, numeracy, across grade levels from pre-K to 12, across subjects. The focus for this year will be to reduce chronic absenteeism. We have 6 goals, and one is to increase student learning and performance. And you can see our instructional core continues to be curriculum, resources, looking at the schedules, and also based on the student needs. Yep, thank you. Goal 2 is to create coherent, aligned, and something that we can measure when we are doing, measure everything that we do to see if what we are doing is having an impact on students' lives. We want to make sure that we are accountable for the work. There are structures and systems that support the teaching and learning. One of the tools that we are going to use is the program studies as a baseline to look at equity. We do know that by collecting this information last year, that some schools offer different courses. So we want to see how we can create alignment in all our schools so they offer the same courses to our students. But you will hear us talk about coherence and alignment in all the systems. We cannot do everything just based on academics. We are going to pay more emphasis on the mental, social, and emotional needs of the students, creating safe learning environments. That means training that is going to happen with adults, and also we adopted a new curriculum from pre-K to 12. The curriculum in the high school will look different, but we do have a curriculum from pre-K to 12. We want to make sure that our students and staff are going to be ready to learn and ready to teach, and that is to focus on their soul, their mind, and their body. The goal that we are going to have also as a system is to create a multi-tier system of supports. Right now we don't have one, but we have subcontracted with an agency that is going to help us develop that. And so instead of always relying on people outside the district, we can create our own system. Goal 4 is the transparency, communication, and calibration. We will try to do our very best communicating to families and also with the community. We are going to engage in financial planning, and the question is, or the standard is, life after the grant. Right now, we are very fortunate to have ESSER 3 and ARP, but that they will go away. So it's how do we support all the initiatives, everything that we are creating in a multi-year budget, because we have to sustain them. If there are best practices, instead of one-time event, is how do we keep the sequence of the best practices in here. So the goal will be to create a multi-year budget. We hope to do it, and it might look, the beginning will be phase 1, and then next year will be phase 2, but that's the goal, to see how we can actually start projecting for following years. Goal 6 is to gather information to transform practice. And once again, is how do we know that everything that we are doing is having an impact on the students' lives and also in the teachers' practices. We are going to focus on the school improvement plan. We have a close partnership with DESE now. They have assigned 2 members of their team to work with the district. And we are going to be looking at leading and lagging indicators to see what is happening with students and how we can change the trajectory. And instead of looking at end of the year assessment, we want to do something in a bi-weekly basis so we can change our trajectory to support them. The goal will continue to be this instructional accord. That is how do we focus on students, teachers, and the content and the task. What are we asking the students to do and at what level? Then we have the instruction priorities. We have 6 of them. success for all students, how we differentiate lesson plan, how do we deliver lesson planning, and how do we work with students in the classrooms. Student-centered instruction, high expectations, data-informed decision-making, collaboration, and inclusive practices. We are adopting a problem of practice as a district, and that is looking at the task. The task predicts performance. So whatever we are going to be asking the students to do is how do we know that actually that's what they need and at what level, and also how do we actually can predict their performance. This is going to be something new for the district that we are going to engage all together in looking at what are we asking students to do in the classroom in a regular day, in every single day. Sorry. Information for families and community members, caregivers, you can find them in our website. That is the Malden Public Schools, the district calendar that says is going to let you know about PD, early release days, and also when school is not in session. We are going to be asking and engaging again in working groups. We do have a working handbook from pre-K to 12, but we know that things that need to be also changed or transformed, so your feedback is critical. So I want to thank the parents that are in here for highlighting about how important it was to mention about the hours of homework. We are not there yet, but we are going to engage very soon on working groups. The same thing with the code of conduct. We have a working document, but we want to make sure that it's going to be even better. And I know Ms. Pam McDonald was leading this work. She will continue leading the work because we want to make sure it's not a punitive tool, it's an informative tool. I will skip the staffing updates. My apologies. During our first PD together as the entire district, so this time, for the very first time, we had all the units at the Jenkins Auditorium, and the goal was to have everybody there because of the trainings that we all need to be aware, and also the ones that we are mandated. So in this chart, you can see the name of the training, the person that is the lead person, or the contact person, and who needs to take what type of training. We are also going to get certifications to be uploaded because some of them, as educators, we are mandated to take, and we are mandated to have evidence of that. So we created an online certification to keep track of that. So if any educator misses their something happened and they cannot find the documents, we will be able to find it for them. Thank you. Special education, we understand about transportation. We had a meeting with NRT because the expectation is that every single student needs to be picked up on time, needs to be dropped off on time, needs to be safe, and we cannot have buses not showing up. So we are engaging in conversations with them. We are going to meet with them next week, and we are trying to monitor this because I agree with everybody. Our students deserve the best of the best, and we are just trying to monitor things. So I thank all the principals for making phone calls to families when we ask them to pick them up. So I understand your frustration, and my apologies for that, but yeah, we want something better for our students. And NRT, they're working with us very closely to find more drivers. We do have an assessment class where we are going to be assessing students. We have a language-based classroom where we are going to be able to serve the Linden STEM Academy. And that's when it comes to IEPs because we have to do the assessments. So we create an assessment center where instead of just sending students out of the district, they will be in our district, and the psychologists who would provide the services will be coming there too. We moved the RISE program middle school from Linden to Salemwood, where there is going to be the assessment center at Salemwood, so that means providing more support for our RISE students. I'm going to move to the adoption of a new curriculum from K-8 in literacy. This took a lot of meetings. It was very tedious and amazing. program process. So I want to thank Victoria Mulkern and the team for supporting her with this, and the parents and teachers who participated in the selection of the new curriculum under the supervision of Assistant Superintendent Emily Spina. We were able to order all the materials. We are missing 7 booklets in kindergarten. In first grade, we're missing 7 materials. We hope to get them soon. But in terms of how many materials we got and how many materials were delivered to the schools and how many of these materials are in the hands of the educators and the students, you can see that it's only 7 that we are missing. So once again, this is kudos to Ms. Mulkern, because usually it takes 2-3 years to do an adoption of a curriculum, and she was able to do it in less than 6 months with a team of people, parents, caregivers, school committee members who are here who supported that initiative. An update on AEAP. We know the history that we put on pause some of the grades, and now I'm going to give an overview on where we are in terms of the students that were accepted in the program. There were 3 notifications to parents, and they received 1 of them. One is welcome, congratulations, you were admitted. The other one is you're on a waiting list, and the other one is that they didn't meet the benchmarks for the program. There were assessments done by the directors to measure the academic level of the students, and there were targets that we shared. Actually, that was in June before we left, where we're going to be the metrics for the program. On the next slide, you actually have the numbers of the students who were previously accepted into AEAP. Some students that were in the program, they were grandfathered in the program. In the classrooms, we had students who were previously officially accepted and the students that were added to the classroom because they wanted to have a balanced class size. In this case, the students that were grandfathered were the students that were officially accepted prior to this into the program. So you can see the grades is 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then you can see the number of open seats that we had at the beginning of June, and there were in grade 4 there were 14, in 5th grade there were 8, in 6th grade there were 6, in 7th grade there were 12, and 8th grade were 7. You can also see the number of students who met the criteria and were invited to join the program for this fall. The students that were accepted and joined the program, the beginning of the fall is there. Students returning to the program in the fall, and the students currently enrolled. So at this moment, in the classes, you can see that the capacity we said was going to be 25. At this moment in 4th grade, we have 22. In 5th grade, we have 22. In 6th grade, we have 21. In 7th grade, we have 23. And in 8th grade, 24. And we are not going to open admissions until June again. And there is a working group with parents, principals, students, and administrators that are going to come back and present to this committee. At this moment, I did the presentation, but from now on, they are going to come and present. And in January, they are going to be able to make a recommendation to this body about next year. Okay. We do also have the honors program that we are piloting. We had a group of teachers during the summer working on developing curriculum for these programs, and therefore we are going to just pilot the program because we want to make sure that teachers get used to the new curriculum and at the same time on how we implement this program that actually is open to all students that meet this criteria. And we want to make sure that we offer this in a way that the students also get to know the program. So therefore, this year is a piloting year. Sorry. So one of the things that we know that a lot of things are happening in our districts. I just want to make sure that we are going to be working together, that we are going to be showing respect to each other, and that we are going to say, as Adam said, have space and grace, because It's just the beginning of school year. We want to make sure we're not going to make it longer than it is, and we want to make sure that we are going to create a better world for all our students. And we are going to have an amazing school year because our students are ready, our teachers are ready, and I know we need to hire more staff, but at the same time, we are ready just to have fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Questions of the superintendent? Let's go to Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to keep this short, but it probably won't be. So we're going to start in the beginning on district enrollment, specifically BB, because as you've stated, there's a wait list for BB, but I'm concerned that our numbers from June showcased actually having 74 more students in June than we do now. So I'm just curious why we have a wait list. You said a wait list for, I believe it was first grade and fourth grade, and just doing the numbers, we currently have 115 in fourth grade, but last year we had 128. So I'm just curious the discrepancies. Right now our total is 872. In June it was 946.
So last year we ran our buildings over capacity in a way. It was, and so therefore we want to make sure that we go back to 930. And if you look at the bubbles, also we can see the number of teachers, and we don't want to go over 25 students, even though 25 is high. So therefore we cannot put more students because that will bring us to have 30 students in each class. So that is the reason that our buildings, we hope to keep them at 930.
Thank you. My second question pertains just to the goals that were highlighted, and I know we're going to be speaking in regards to your evaluation on the next topic, but I'm assuming these goals, these district goals, are going to be aligned with your personal goals going forward?
That is correct. That is correct. So also taking feedback from people that have come and lessons learned from last year, everything's included in here, yes, and this will be my same goal.
In regards to information that's going out, code of conduct, handbooks, everything's online, but what are we doing to make sure people without PCs have this information in front of them? Have we done, our robocalls to caregivers if you don't have the ability to log in? They can request this paperwork to be sent home with their students. I'm just curious because not everybody has, we may have a cell phone, but sometimes it's difficult to view these things on a phone, and not every family has a PC. So just how are we getting paper forms and this information out to families?
So we're going to do the same thing we did last year, where we send a backpack, robocalls, Zoom meetings to explain things and just promote them. Last year we have a lot of parents out in community members in one of the working groups that we actually had to open 2 different sessions. So because knowing that worked, we are going to try to do the same thing, trying to recruit as many parents, caregivers, administrators to do this. Yeah, so we will send hard copies. We also send a survey to see where was the interest, and some people wanted to do the 3 of them, to be in 3 working groups. So we are going to send a survey again. It was in multiple languages, and we send them hard copies too.
So is there any way that a parent can indicate that they don't have a PC and they want all communication paper-based, so we don't even have to reach out, like just it's somehow noted in a profile within Aspen for that student that all communication should be paper-based to make sure that they're not missing out on anything?
Great. We don't have that in Aspen, but it's a very good question. It's a good thing that we are going to see if we can do it, or from the school principals to say what parents need to have everything paper-based. That's a very good
Or
suggestion.
translation-based maybe, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of our documents are translated, no matter what. That's something that's a commitment that we have, but I love your idea of actually seeing if they want a paper-based or if they want it online. Thank you so much for that.
2 more very quick questions. So the assessment, it says here assessment class. I'm going to call it an assessment center.
Yes.
Because I'm gathering it is for a student that maybe we're looking at can we provide the services before we send them out of district? We're able to see what their needs are in this assessment center, so they're placed there for a certain amount of time, like 2 weeks, a month, or whatever.
So that is the goal that we have, and also we can serve students from other districts and charge them. So to see if we can run all those assessments in here. Yes, it will be prior to we send anybody out of the district, but also for other districts that they need the students to be tested, so we can actually be the providers and receive funding for those services.
Okay. And lastly, I probably could save this for my personal privilege, but I'm going to state it here. I would like to see the district really putting their foot down with NRT. They work for us. They're contracted to work for us. We have students that are not getting to school, that are not meeting what is placed in their IEP contractually. We have to serve them, and NRT needs to step up. And I don't care if we have to meet with them every single day. Something needs to be done immediately. And I say that as a parent that is going through this right now, but I'm saying this also for all the parents that I've heard from over the past week that are suffering. So I expect more from this district to hold them accountable.
I hear you loud and clear, and I share your frustration, and we will do as much as we can to push, but we have a contract with them, and we will look
have a
and to see.
contract, they're violating our contract, so.
So we will be, I will be bringing a recommendation. I think I sent a recommendation to one person. We will send a recommendation because this is unacceptable. It's not as, I hear you loud and clear. Let's leave it that way, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. To Mr. Waldeck.
Very quickly, because Ms. Spatafora kind of already highlighted the comment that I was going to make too, which was I question whether or not, and maybe this is a button we can push, whether or not NRT is violating the contract they have with us. Because if we know that there are other alternatives that we can engage in, but we just can't because we're contractually locked into NRT, I would venture a guess that we could try to push to see whether or not they're violating the contract enough that we could then violate the contract. I don't know how to say it the right way, but I do hope that we're pushing on them as much as we can, and it does at this point feel like it's a violation of the contract that they have with us. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Waldeck. Anybody else? Let's go to Ms. Macklin, and then we'll go to Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Waldeck and Ms. Spatafora's comments with NRT, and it's sort of wondering for me if there are any penalties for them for violating the contract.
So we will go with our legal advisor on this, because yes, if they don't provide these services, they're a violation of the contract. So we will explore different things. At this moment, we do not have any other agency that we can tap into for the buses. So, but that is something that we started to explore. And I won't mention it here, but there's a plan that we're working on to see if there's a violation of the contract, what can we do, what are the rights, and also options, because we cannot just say, no contract, no buses. We still have to transport the students. So what we can simultaneously navigate.
Right, and I understand that aspect of it. I'm just wondering financially if there's a penalty to them. It just seems absurd that we would continue to pay the full contract price and we're not receiving services.
We will explore that with the council, legal counsel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Macklin. Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to also back up everybody's feelings with services that NRT are not providing right now. I also have constituents who had issues with their actual non-use of car seats, child seats, that they had concerns about. So there's multiple things now that we're aware of. So I do think that it's definitely time we start stepping up what we're working with. And I did have a question about the pilot program, just a quick one. Is that in all of the schools where it's a pilot program? Are all of the schools doing it, or are there just individual schools right now?
If that's the honors program?
Yes.
It should be in every school just to pilot, yes.
Okay, thank you. Over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, not to hammer the point home, but as a former school bus driver, yeah, the NRT should be doing this, not to go and put more pressure on you, because I'm sure that you've heard from every one of us. But yes, if they're going and not meeting the terms of their contract, we can certainly go and put pressure on them, and it should be on them to go and provide and figure out how to go and provide transportation somehow. I did have a question about the waiting lists for kids coming into the schools. If we cannot get them into their local neighborhood school, are we offering offering them, you know, to be able to go into, like, if they can't get into Ferryway, can we move them to Salemwood temporarily? You know, what are the options that are being offered to families?
Thank you for that question. The options are at this moment Linden and also Linden and Salemwood. Okay. And we are looking at which one is the closest location. And once again, we have a waiting list, and when seats will become open, we can move the students according to that waiting list. We hope that we are, by doing Friday reconciliation meetings, that means reconciliation, enrollment, like we will look at the enrollment, seeing students that have not shown up to school at all, or that we have identified that actually they have stated that they're not coming to the district, that we can actually discharge them so that we'll open seats for the waiting list. But at this moment, the schools that have physical space and the staffing is Salemwood for kindergarten, K-8, K-5, and Linden. Salemwood Middle School is something that we are looking at monitoring the numbers because they're getting very high. So what happens if we had a waiting list and the middle school at Salemwood, we might be able to hire staff in there and support the students.
And then I just got one other question about the AEAP, which I'm glad to see that we're going and actually going and absorbing. We've got people that have taken the opportunity to get their kids into this program. This was very contentious last year. And I'll go and I'll thank Ms. Spatafor again for doing the work that she did on that, to go and to get that running. But that being said, are we making sure that since we have new kids that are kind of coming into what has been a group of kids that have been coming through this program, do we have structures in place to make sure that they're getting that kind of social, emotional support as they come in? Because, you know, if you've got someone that comes into the 7th grade program, you've had kids that have been there, most likely, you know, at least through 3rd grade. So I'm just curious if there are some supports in there to go make sure that they feel welcomed and are being supported.
So I have to say that Principal Ray Garcia has created a very welcoming and safe environment, and that with the new curriculum that is going to be focused on the welcoming environment that is going to be implemented. At this moment, we just started first week, so everybody is like acclimating to the school, but we are going to see Ms. Erin Craven and also Charlie to work with the social emotional component, which is embracing the new students. We have not paid particular or special attention to that program because all the students, most of the students are coming new to the schools. So therefore, we can do that. The school, the working group can work on that, looking at if that's the need or how to make them more welcome. But I had to say that Principal Garcia and his school is an amazing group of people, just like the other schools.
That's all I got. And also, you know, thank you to the principal of the Linden, because I know that he's a stand-up guy and really wants to go and make sure he's serving the students. So that wasn't a comment on any of his capability. I just wanted to make sure it got stated publicly.
Yes,
thank
you. No, thank you.
Okay, I know we have our executive session ahead of us. Just a couple questions from the chair. Can you get us the enrollment from September 2019 on this date? I forget what it was. I know we've looked at it in the past, but I want to compare it to where we are today. I know you gave us tonight, last year, and I think mid-year. I want to see if it's okay, September 2019 versus September 2022. The other question I had that reminded me with one of the pictures you showed, and I know it's rather early in the year, but so far so good with Aramark?
Outstanding work. We had a little challenging time for when we had the professional development for all the teachers because they were the ones in charge of the food. We were able to talk to them, and they have done an amazing job. Students are happy with the food, staff too. I mean, high quality services, and of course our cafeteria workers who are outstanding. They love the T-shirts because now they are able to get their uniforms that said Malden Public Schools because they are our employees, our part of the team. So far so good. And we will monitor. So Ms. Mertz and I am monitoring them constantly, and we will be having meetings with the managers I won't say weekly because there's a lot of weekly meetings, but frequently meetings because we want to make sure that we are monitoring how things are being delivered in the schools, that food is on time, that is warm, and that the students have different choices.
And then I know Mr. Lasad, Mr. Rubin, Ms. Mertz, Mr. Phelps, is it me or is the air quality better this year? Is the AC and everything been working fine?
Everything's working great. During this summer, there were a lot of work that was done in schools. We had to take Salem-Wood off the grid for summer programs, and sorry, parents, that we had to interrupt that, but because we needed to work on the systems in there. So our systems are one of the best at this moment.
They're working well.
And we also work at the high school. We were not expecting that, but something happened in the auditorium with the air quality, so they have a new system.
All right, very good. Let's go back to public comment and take that hand. Let's go to Mr. Waldai.
And I'm going to turn it over to Imen. And thank you for being so patient. Let's give her a second. Let's see, you're still muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, it worked.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Christensen, Superintendent Noriega Murphy, and members of the school committee. I'm gonna try to make this really short. My name is Iman Saidi, and I live at 30 Parkside Place. I come forward tonight as a parent of a disabled students attending Malden Public Schools who require transportation to and from school in order to access a free and appropriate education as their neurotypical peers, a basic right. I know there was a lot of conversation just right now regarding transportation, so I want to thank the people who have spoken up about it. So I was notified last week that my sons, along with their peers on that bus route, will not be having any school-to-home transportation as of Friday, September 9th, until further notice when a new driver can be assigned to that route. Now, to many, this may sound like a small logistical problem. However, to a student like one of my boys, this has created a severe disruption that has impacted his school day, his ability to regulate, as well as his safety. For a more concrete example, this afternoon, although there were support staff and myself assisting my son out of the school building, he ran out, crossed the road, screaming until he got in front of my vehicle. If it weren't for the cross guards being there, I don't know what could have happened. I'm sharing this because while I understand driver shortages, I also want to make the critical point that this is an urgent issue. It isn't just isolated to my son and his routine disruption. And we simply cannot just wait for bids to open up, since I understand this is NRT's last year contracted with the city. I'm imploring you to please look at all short-term options that can be provided for students who are being directly impacted by this major change in their school day. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, maybe we should do this. Should we have our vice chair and budget chair get together with NRT? Can you arrange that?
Yep, we can do that.
And would you be willing to do that? I think the time has probably come. Yeah. Instead of, having the superintendent go to them and then she comes back to us, let's get them before us. Yeah. And one thing we should probably ask them, has the time come that, we look to peel back some of the contract and just subcontract it ourselves? I mean, if they can't do it, maybe we just have to go a different direction midstream.
I agree with you, because when we met with them, I asked them, can you subcontract? Because at the end of the day, they're getting our money. Can you subcontract a small bus company so you can supply? It's not our fault that they're not drivers. In a way, it's like, can you help us by subcontract? And they say no. So I'm more than yes, please, we can meet with them tomorrow morning, because it has to be resolved like right away.
Yeah, you know what,
So-
add me to it as well. So the three of us will meet and report back to the full body. Do it by Zoom.
I don't know if we have the ability to have legal counsel as well, because.
Let me go to you. Yeah, we could do
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, I think legal counsel as well that knows the contract, the ins and outs. I don't know if our legal counsel or if we could utilize the city solicitor, but I think making sure somebody that knows the contract, because quite frankly, I don't think that they're doing their best by us.
Yeah, we'll arrange to do that.
Without using the word violating a contract, but
Yeah.
they're definitely not fulfilling their contractual obligations.
Yeah,
So,
we'll make that happen. Either one of our city solicitors, or we'll ask Mr. Greenspan from our end to attend as well, okay?
yeah, thank you.
So let's do that sooner rather than later, okay?
Yep.
All right. Very good. We're now going to move to subcommittee reports. We're going to hear from Mr. McCarthy regarding the superintendent's evaluation. So let's go to him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee, I will be making the presentation tonight for the superintendent's evaluation. You can go to the next slide. So like everyone knows, here in Massachusetts, there's a two-part system that superintendents are rated on, one being their three professional goals, and the second part is 4 different standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family community engagement, and professional culture. And those are the ratings that you can give a superintendent for the 2 parts. Next slide. So these next 2 slides that I put in this presentation, I felt were the most important goals to kind of outline and so everyone can kind of get a clearer picture as to what the superintendent has been working towards. So I looked at her professional practice goal. You know, obviously there was a lot of listening sessions and meetings with numerous stakeholders to learn about the district and the city when she first came in. Kind of learn the district in an unbiased manner. And develop an entry plan with 3 different phases in order to capture all the important information when she was coming in here into the school district. Next slide. I'm really not going to get into the crux of the student learning goal because there's a lot of information there. They'll be able to look at the information after the fact. But based on the information that was provided, most school committee members said there was significant progress in her first year in this particular, in the student learning goal based on the right side of that slide there. They felt like she was working towards that and some of it was accomplished. Next slide. So the next slide is the district improvement goal. You know, obviously with making sure there was instructional core when it came to curriculum, you know, resources, scheduling, and really what the students needs. And all the bullet points there, I'm really not going to get into those. You know, most school committee members said that the superintendent did meet this district improvement goal. Some said there was significant progress, and then some said that there was some progress, and one said she exceeded that in her first year coming into the district. Next slide. So based on all of the overall composite rating for all 3 district goals based on the information that was provided to me, most school committee members did say there was significant progress based on the information that I received from everyone here on the committee from the 3 goals. 4 committee members said that she met that, and that was the rundown for her 3 professional goals. Next slide. So this is just a general slide just to get into kind of understand the next part of the presentation based on the 4 standards. This is just general information when it comes to kind of learning and understanding the indicators that are in when you look at the different standards and understanding where, how individual school committee members did rate the superintendent on these 4 standards. So just kind of keep that in mind. If after the fact, when you have a copy of this presentation, you can take a look at it. Next slide, Adam. All right, so getting into the first standard, which is instructional leadership. Obviously, like you see in the first column on the left there, is all the different indicators: curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, and data-informed decision-making. For curriculum, most school committee members did say that she was proficient in this particular indicator. When it came to instruction, the general consensus was proficient. When it came to assessment, most school committee members said that she was proficient in that. When it came to evaluation, most school committee members said that there needs improvement in that particular indicator. And then data-informed decision-making, most school committee members said she was proficient in that particular indicator as well. So the overall composite rating when it came to the first standard was that she was proficient in this particular standard. So it came out as a proficient rating for standard 1. Next slide. Okay, so getting into standard 2, which is management and operations. You see the indicators there all the way in the left column. When it came to environment, most school committee members said that she was proficient in this particular indicator. When it came to HR, management and development, most school committee members did say there needs improvement in this particular indicator. Scheduling and management, proficient was the overall rating. Law, ethics, and policies, most school committee members said that she was proficient in that as well. And then when it came to the financial systems, it was actually a tie, as you can see at the bottom there, 4-4 tie between needs improvement and proficient. So that was kind of a tough one. So that's kind of a split there for the when it came to financial systems. Next slide. So the overall composite rating for standard 2 when it came to management and operations came out as a proficient rating for standard 2. Did you see the 6 there? 1 said exemplary and 2 said needs improvement for standard 2. Standard 3, family and community engagement. So when it came to the first indicator, which is engagement, most school committee members said that she was proficient in this particular indicator. Sharing the overall responsibility for the district, most school committee members said that she was proficient as well. Communication, most people here in the committee did indicate that she was proficient in that as well. And then family concerns have had an overall rating of proficient. So the overall composite rating when it came to family and community engagement was a resounding proficient, with 9 members saying that she was overall proficient in this particular rating for standard 3. Next slide. So standard 4 is professional culture. So the first indicator that you see there on the left is commitment to high standards. The highest rating for this particular indicator was proficient, and then 2 said needs improvement, 2 said exemplary. Cultural proficiency, 3 committee members said that she was exemplary in this particular indicator, and 6 said she was proficient. Communication, the highest rating for this particular indicator was needs improvement, with 5 committee members saying that that was the rating for that. Next was proficient, and then exemplary. Continuous learning, proficient was the highest rating for this indicator. Shared vision was proficient, and managing conflict needs improvement was the highest rating for this particular indicator, with 3 saying proficient for the last indicator for standard 4. Next slide, Mr. Waldo. So the overall composite rating was a tie between needs improvement and proficient. But as I went back and looked at a lot of the information when it came to this particular, all the information that was provided, I did, come to a conclusion that I feel that needs improvement was probably the most, secure rating for this particular standard, based on, everything that kind of has transpired based on that. So this is just an overall tally based on standards 1, 2, 3, and 4 when it comes to unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, exemplary. So it's clear to say there, based on the graph, that standards 1, 2, and 3 have a proficient rating, a final rating, and standard 4 would be a final rating of needs improvement, and then an overall rating for the entire evaluation would be, I feel, would be a proficient final rating. So that is the completion of the evaluation presentation, Mr. Chair, and we can open it up to dialogue or debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCarthy. And just so the audience knows, on that committee was you chairing along with?
Ms. Zyberg and Ms. Spatafora.
All right, very good. And just so the members know, is the goal tonight to approve or adopt, and then it goes to the Department of?
Yeah, so tonight's goal is to have debate and dialogue regarding the information that, obviously that was presented by the superintendent, take a vote on this to, if we feel as a body, to approve it, and then send this information over to the EPINS person here in the district, and they send it off to DESE.
Superintendent, is that your understanding?
Yes, that you will present it, and I will accept it.
Yep.
And so I'm accepting it. Thank you so much for the feedback, and there's always room for improvement. So I thank everybody here, especially the ones that were in the subcommittee. So if that's what you're presenting, I say thank you.
Mr. McCarthy, at what point, as you mentioned during your presentation, would the school community have access? After it's submitted to DESE?
Well, I think every member has it a part of the packet tonight, and then after the fact, after we, I assume that we're going to approve it, it's going to be available to the public because it's a public document. So.
On the school website?
On the school website as well, yeah. So.
All right, Mr. McCarthy, thank you very much. I know you've been at it throughout the summer, so any questions of the members? Let's go to Ms. Spatafora, and then we'll go over to Ms. Macklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we're not sharing the screen anymore, but I do have some concern over the very last slide, Mr. McCarthy, standards 1 through 4 overall rating. You indicated standard 1 proficient, standard 2 proficient, standard 3 proficient, but then said standard 4 you would rate as needs improvement when the superintendent received 4 in proficient and 1 in exemplary. To me, that would showcase not needs improvement. It's not a tie. A tie would be 4 and 4. There's 9 members. There can't be a tie.
Yep.
So I would say in that standard 4, the superintendent meets proficient in all 4 of those standards. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I'm reading it.
Okay. Any questions on that, Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah, can I get a rebut to that?
Please.
Yeah, so, basically based on the information that was provided and, comments that came back from, committee members, a lot of it was based on, stuff that has transpired, Ms. Spatafora, like we're all aware of. You know, I felt like it was, you know, safe to say that there was needs improvement, particularly with, like I just said, everything that has transpired. And I don't know if a proficient rating would be, you know, a good idea at this moment. It could go up to proficient if we, in the next, you know, evaluation. But I felt like it was, you know, a fair rating at this current moment.
Okay. All set, Ms. Spatafora? So you're sort of going beyond the numbers, I presume, into some of the comments that were made, or?
So that's your personal opinion.
Yeah.
That's not the opinion of the subcommittee that sat together, that voted to send this up, because clearly what I'm looking at is data, which has 5 indicators of either proficient or exemplary against 4 needs improvement. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just clarifying that's your personal opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if Ms. Zyberg has any other, thoughts on that.
Well, let me first hop to Ms. Macklin, and then we can go to Ms. Rose Zyberg. Let me just turn it on, Ms. Macklin. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Ms. Spatafora, that's exactly the way I saw it, that if we're going by the data and what the full body has presented, certainly the superintendent meets proficiency in this category, and I certainly can't support anything but proficiency because that's what the full body has presented. And I didn't know that we were taking our feelings into account. So I totally understand that you may have received some dialogue or communication, particularly with the needs improvement sector, but I don't see where that would result in a needs improvement, and I certainly wouldn't support that standard for standard 4, the needs improvement. And so that actually brought me to another question, because as I was reviewing this today in preparation for tonight's meeting, there was a category that I did assign exemplary, and it's not noted here. So my wondering is the three folks, committee members that were on the subcommittee, did everyone view all of the evaluations that were presented, or was it just the chair who reviewed it and
Yeah, so that
kind
was
of prepared the report?
Okay, Mr. McCarthy?
Because I'm just wondering where the checks and balances are.
Yeah, so based on that information, like, to answer your question, all that information was sent to me. I know that we had a phone conversation regarding some ratings, and after the fact, after you sent that over to me, so that was sent directly to me because I was chair, that I had to kind of sift through all of the information from everyone here. So that was sent directly to me.
So none of the other subcommittee members viewed the other evaluations from the full committee?
Well, it was my understanding that because I was chair of the evaluation, I would ultimately have to go through all of the information that was provided from everyone.
Which I understand that part of it, but I'm just wondering, because there are no checks and balances, as I just presented, that there's an error in the report.
Yeah, to Ms. Macklin's point, I thought you had multiple meetings over the summer, and what you did, I assume, is just compile the data, and that's what we're looking at here, right?
Correct.
Although we do have to check into Ms. Macklin's exemplary rating.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll have to do that offline.
Copied my personal, my evaluation and
Yeah.
compared it to your report, which I printed today.
Yeah, so you know what, Ms. Macklin, at a minimum, we may want to just table this to give you a chance to meet with Ms. Macklin to figure out if there was something
Yeah, it could
in
be
error
it could be a
about what
phone
she
call.
submitted.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly have been something that was
Yeah.
overlooked.
Yeah, so we'll check that if it's okay with the rest of the committee. But again, Mr. McCarthy, we have it right that you took all the individual data, and what we're seeing here is the compilation of that.
Yeah, compiled it and put it into
Yeah.
so.
All right, let's go. Is that good, Ms. Macklin?
I'm still troubled by the standard 4, so I don't know if that needs further debate tonight, or if we're just going to table everything.
Yeah, I think we're going to
until-
table everything,
okay.
because I definitely want to make sure that your rating is reflected in the overall data. So we'll be tabled, so this will give her a chance to talk afterward. But let's hear from another committee member. Let's go to Ms. Rose Zyberg. There we go.
Thank you. I know we all submitted our responses, and I do think that we need to go by, we have to set aside our personal opinions on what we think. We had cases where we had some standards where, some people said needs improvement and some said it was exemplary. So we have to strip down. I don't think that it would be right to go strictly by data for everything else and then use another standard and not just look at the data. I do think that we also came at it from our own particular experiences with the superintendent, with our constituents, with the community, which can explain why there's the broad span of ratings in some cases. But I do definitely am curious with, if something happened, Dawn, we need to definitely table it so we can see what's going on. But I do think that we need to stick with, if we're using a data approach, then we need to do that consistently throughout.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Rose Zyberg. Okay. I think we should, at a minimum, just to double check these ratings, but especially, I think to make sure that there isn't some discrepancy between what Ms. Macklin submitted and what Mr. McCarthy has recorded. So what we'll have to do too is probably notify DESE, that we want to check something before we finalize.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was it for comments. So if there is nothing else, we will entertain a motion to table. Motion by Mr. Bernard, seconded by, who was that? Mr. Drummy. Any more questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That will be tabled. And Ms. Macklin, you'll speak off. Okay. All right, very good. So that dispenses with item number 5, which was the motion to approve. So we just tabled that. Now we're at points of personal privilege, and then just keep in mind we have a rather long executive session docket. So are there any points of personal privilege before we entertain a motion to go into executive session? Let's start with Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of points. The Ferryway PTO has started Ice Cream Friday, so it started back last Friday. So the next 3 Fridays, if you got a buck and you want an ice cream, go to the Ferryway on the plaza side. It's a good deal. Next, the PTO, the Ferryway School PTO is having a meeting tomorrow night. It is a Zoom meeting. If you go to the Ferryway PTO website, you'll see the link. You can sign in. They are looking for volunteers. Or you can go to my website as well. Also, this Wednesday, there is an open house at the Ferryway, a back-to-school open house from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And on the 27th of September, this is something that was started a few years ago, and because of COVID, it didn't make it. We're having, again, the PTO is hosting a family night. So there'll be hot dogs and games and all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're not doing anything, it's set for the Ferryway, but it's open. Not too much. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a cookout, but that'll be on the 27th of this month. It's a Tuesday, and it's from 5 to 7. Again, it's on the plaza side of the building. And welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Anybody else? Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh geez, I had it in front of me and now it's gone. So just a quick update that the BB Schools Back to School Night will be tomorrow from 6 to 7:30. And it will be run in 3 different sessions. So if you have multiple students in that school, you can attend one teacher session from 6 to 6:20, and then your other students session from, 6:30 to 6:50. Then there's another one from 7 to 7:20. So it makes it a little bit easier to make sure that you're getting to each one of your students' teachers' classroom without the overlap. I know we have to go into executive session, so I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. Over the past few months, there has been discussions in social media, the newspaper, various outlets in regards to Superintendent Noriega Murphy's educational background. And when the Superintendent Search Committee met, and when this school committee met, for that hiring, it was not based on Superintendent Noriega's potential of having a PhD. It wasn't listed on her resume. It did not come into play. We looked at her resume, references, examples of the work she had done in Boston Public Schools for almost 20 years. With that being said, the superintendent did start using a title that brought into question her educational background to the public and to us as a school committee. With that, the superintendent has provided proof to school committee members. It's difficult to be able to say, here, I can show you proof, because we have been asked to sign legal documents because she's in the midst of legal proceedings. When those proceedings are over, I cannot wait to see a diploma hanging behind her in a picture that showcases it. But all of us have seen the proof, have seen her transcripts from the University of Salamanca, to which I believe 9 of us can sit here and say, we accept that proof of her education. And not only in education, but when looking at your grades, they were fantastic. So kudos to you. I don't know if that will stop the talk. Some people just want to talk, but I can say that we all have been provided with what was asked. So thank you for that.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Anybody else for personal privilege? Mr. Weldy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know we're going into exec, so I won't keep it long, but I do want to make note, and I'm going to preface this, and I don't feel like I should have to, but I'm going to. As I'm an educator myself. Up until a few weeks ago, I was not only an MTA member, but president of my local chapter, and someone who I think, as most of us do feel, are consistently supporters and working partners of our colleagues in the MEA. And I think that there's the narrative that's going out there right now about a failed contract negotiations, I think is partially our fault, because we don't necessarily get our message out in any real way. But I've received a handful of questions from parents over the past week or two, from some staff members who live in the district, which is great, in the past week or two. And I've heard a lot of, how could we let this contract expire? And it's true, it did expire. And I think, what oftentimes isn't said, and we want to make sure people know, is that the terms and conditions of the previous contract are still in place until a successor agreement's reached. And the idea that this is unprecedented, I'm actually really excited at the idea that we might finish this faster than we've ever finished a contract before. Because when we look at, and no knock to the, it's a tough, long process. And if you look at the past, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 for both, or all three units, A, B, and C. I don't know if we have any that were settled even within the first 6 months of it being expired. And we can, double fact check that, but, the idea that it's going to be settled soon, we hope, and that every cent of retroactive pay is going to be paid to the folks who deserve that, because retro pay is something that I think we are used to in our payroll department. I know I just negotiated a contract in my local. We settled it last April. It expired the previous July. We got 9 months of retro pay. Does it mean that it's right just because it's something that happened before? No, but it's definitely not unprecedented. And this particular time, I'm not a member of negotiations. I've been on a lot of negotiations committees before, but I'm not, and I know that the work that the folks who are on that committee are doing is hard. I've managed to attend 2 of them. This is really different than anything I've ever been a part of, and that isn't a bad thing. What I don't love, and I don't feel bad about saying this, is the us versus them narrative, which, this idea of negotiating via social media and public perception, and I get it. The idea that the school committee wants to keep negotiations secret. We were told explicitly many times that negotiations were supposed to be an executive session. I know that I've asked our chair, and I think that she agrees, that it would be great if we could post these as public meetings, so that members of the public, so that parents, so that community members can actually come. Because if we have folks there from other communities, why not Malden too? Because there is nothing, I think, wrong with that. And this particular cycle, based on an idea from the MEA, which was awesome, they combined all 3 bargaining units into one negotiating team, when in the past it was 3 separate units having 3 separate teams and lengths of meetings. And this, I think, hopefully will allow things to move much quicker than the usual pace negotiations moves at. Wage proposals typically are the biggest indicator of what happens. Not in their moral value per se, but there are a lot of proposals, there are a lot of language proposals that have financial implications. Wage proposals are usually the big ones so that you can cost out the big picture. I didn't attend all the meetings, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that the wage proposals didn't come until August, and that's just what it is. It's no fault of literally anybody. And I actually attended that meeting, and I left that meeting thinking, this is great. We have wage proposals, and hopefully now this entire thing can be wrapped up in a month or 2. Maybe, 7 or 8 meetings in total, which I think would be a record for settling 3 contracts, let alone 1 contract. And I sat in that room on August 10th when people were planning the next meeting, and everybody there, both sides of the table, pulled out their phones and looked at their calendars, and and I'm going to admit something that I shouldn't. I actually thought the contract expired July 1st, not August 31st. That's how normal the idea of working and getting that retro settled was. So I didn't really think anything of it, but I also would not have known from being in that room that there was a sense of urgency, because the next date wasn't scheduled until September 21st. And this gave people time to cost out the wage proposals and to come up with counter proposals, and I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that there's thoughtful response to those proposals when we meet again. But if the hope is that we finish quickly, I would implore the chair and the members of the committee to maybe work with the MEA to try to schedule a couple more meetings sooner rather than waiting till the October date that was scheduled. I felt remiss, and I've gotten enough questions about it that I wanted to at least say that I'm struggling and trying to renew sort of commitment to facts versus narrative, what good faith looks like, because I don't know about, my truth is I don't think anybody in the room wants negotiations to last any longer than they do. I don't know why they would. And I don't think anybody doesn't consider the MEA to be a strong partner and an important partner in the work that, for our kids' success and support their right to organize. And we don't all understand, no one up here doesn't understand that we're working towards a common goal. And we know that our teachers deserve a raise, our paraprofessionals deserve a raise, and then some. But I left that meeting on August 10th thinking this is great and that they'll be done soon. And I still believe that, because I still believe that everybody who comes to those meetings and organizes and commits themselves to our community, everybody, has the kids' best interests at heart. So I'm looking forward to that meeting on September 21st, and that's just as one member who sits off committee and has to sit silent, which I think anybody who knows me knows it's an extraordinarily hard thing for me to do. And I hope that, actually doing that work with each other, not necessarily against each other, is where our collective energy can go over the next couple weeks, because we can get it done. And I really look forward to that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all the folks who have reached out and asked. I truly do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Walday. And so again, for everybody in the room who may be watching, we are not at any kind of impasse, because you would think that we are based on what's being said. The teams have agreed on a date in September. The teams have agreed on a date in October. 2 dates in October. So we are still talking and negotiating and communicating. Absolutely. Good to hear. Okay. All right, very good. If there are no other questions, let's now go to executive session. So we will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Please tell me, Madam Clerk, I don't have to read all these again, do I? Okay, very good. So I read them at the outset. All right. So motion to go into executive session. So it's made by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Pedapora? Yes. Ms. Macklin? Yes. Mr. Walday?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes, what Mike said.
Ms. Rose Zybert? Yes. Mayor Christensen?
Yes. All right, we'll now go into executive session. We will come back out. We may or may not vote on some of the items we discussed in executive session. Then we will move adjournment.
Thank you, Rosetta. We salute you. They are the best.
Recording stopped.
Oh.
Yeah, me too.
When you get up.
Okay, so you know it. Is it better for you Zoom? Best. Okay, in mornings, afternoon, nights? Do you prefer?
I can do mornings and afternoons with some of this.
All right, we'll work with your schedule.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Recording in progress.
Okay, school committee is back. We'll entertain a motion. Mr. Drummy to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. McCarthy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Chair has none. School committee is hereby adjourned.